Welcome. Welcome, Melbourne. Who is from Melbourne? Who's not from Melbourne? Oh, we got a few. Where are we from? Sydney and... Oh, hi, Judy. I can see you there. Welcome. Well, who's excited about today? Who's heard of Tabaash before? And who's never heard of it? Who got dragged along tonight? Let's be honest. Someone got dragged along. There's always a guy, isn't it? It's always a guy that gets dragged along. By your girlfriend, your wife?
No, by my...
Not your mother. Health practitioner. I haven't heard that before. There we go. Health practitioner. Well, let me do a little bit of an introduction. Who has heard of Dolores Cannon, the late, great? Oh, I think almost everybody. Well, Blair, I was first heard about Blair through Dolores, and she did a co-presentation back when she was alive. Obviously, she's passed on now. And they, I think it was about 10 years ago, did a presentation together, and I was particularly moved by Blair's ability to tap into the spirit and to connect and to bring through messages, and the energy that I think Dolores Cannon embodied is the same energy which Tabaash operates in. And he's become a good friend of mine, and I got a message to actually promote him here in Australia. So this is the first event. Who knows that everything is energy, right? Who believes that? Yeah. Who can feel the energy in here today? It reminds me one thing Dolores said, that she said you would walk into a room and people would feel your energy. They might not be conscious of it, but they feel it because everything is energy and everything is vibration. Who's never heard of that before? Who doesn't know what I'm talking about? We've probably got some sound and lighting people that probably think I'm a bit wacky, but anyway, maybe by the end we might turn them around. So without further ado, I want to welcome my good friend, Blair Styra, who will bring... Woo! Welcome, Blair. That was a bit of a surprise. I was thought you were going to come through on the side.
I surprised you.
Give Blair a warm welcome, everyone. I'll probably get out of your hair now.
Okay, off you go.
I don't think you need me anymore. I'll
much.
come on at the end. We'll have a chat.
Okay,
Hey,
that's great.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just listening to what Paul was saying backstage, who was dragged here? And I was thinking, well, I was dragged here by spirit. But it's not like that at all. I remember one of Dolores's conferences that I did in Arkansas, and I was one of 3 key speakers, and there were about 10 other speakers as well. Anyway, this guy was about to go on, and he had all these PowerPoint presentations and notes that he had, etc. And he was looking at me, and he goes, "Well, what have you got here? What have you done to prepare for all this?" And I said, "Well, I got here." And this is a thing, and I've been channeling Tabaash now for 36 years, and I never do any preparation. I just arrive. I have no idea what he's ever going to talk about, so it's this massive thing of trust, really. And of course you develop this over the years, but in the early days, I remember when I first started doing presentations, just sitting in the green room and just sort of freaking out, thinking, what am I doing here? Why don't I become a lawyer or whatever? But once you get on stage, it something shifts. It's like you move into another gear, so to speak. And when Paul picked me up this afternoon to take me here, he said, well, what have you been doing with your day? And just the last couple of hours, you could feel the presence of Source just gathering. And it just makes you in a slightly altered state of consciousness. And, as Paul was saying before, we're all vibration and energy. So it's just that fine-tuning that is happening. I'm one of these channels who I allow Spirit to speak through me 100%. So as Blair, I have absolutely no memory of what Tabaash says to anybody. Some channels are conscious channels, but in my case, I've obviously opted to, go out there. So I go into another dimension. And it's as real to me out there as talking to you right now is, because people often say, where do you go when you channel? Have a really awesome time with Mr. T, as I call him. He's really funny. He's very personable. He's very wise. Again, he uses my body 100%. My voice will be different. People have said things over the years, like I often get really, really glowy. It's not just the lights. But when I've asked Spirit about that, they say God's light shines through your body. And I remember some years ago, this is in Wellington, a woman came to have a session with Tabaash. And she used to be an executive producer on that TV program called Touched by an Angel, and which was in the 90s. And of course, Monica would glow, you know, when she'd tell everyone. Anyway, so Tabaash comes through, and I started glowing, and she freaked. And you know, because of course she's just used to a key light behind, basically, but this is for real. He may interact with you, he may not. Sometimes he just plunges into the audience and just has a bit of a chat. But yeah, just enjoy his vibration, his wisdom. And thank you for coming. This is the first since 2020, actually. So the last Tabaash event I did was in Cusco in Peru. And I've noticed there's some people there from that course, so it's wonderful to see you. And haven't we all grown up since then? My God. That's what it's all about. Anyway, I'm sure Mr. T will have a few words to say about that. So what I will do now is I'm going to sit down there, and it won't take long to bring Tabaash through. It will take up to 20 seconds. And then he'll just start talking, basically. So I'll talk to you afterwards and have a really good time. And we'll see you later on. Okay. See you later. Bye. Hello. How are you? Hot and sticky. I'll just have some of this. I love watching the energy of such groups. All of you who are present here plugged in a long time ago. And not just to this, but to yourselves. And this is what's happening all of the time. This logging in of higher consciousness. You're all logging in more now than ever before. You're not the same. You can't be. When you look at the events of the last 2 years, it's rather like going through a massive dismantling in every way possible. And in human terms, it hurts. In God terms, hallelujah! Growth, development, evolution. Let's turn some more lights on, which is what's happening. When you turn a light on, you see more. If you don't have the lights on, then you stumble around in the dark. All of you here, in your own ways, you stumbled in your dark. Some still do. But all of you here have turned lights on. I always like to consider the word enlightenment to be in light of your life. When you're in light of your life, you've gone into your life room and you turn the lights on. And when you turn the lights on, everything is there. What you like, what you don't like, what you don't know, it's all there. And it never goes away. But the way you walk into the room determines exactly what your experience is going to be. If you walk in there, as I say in my words, as God, then you're able to know everything, see everything, but organize everything. If you walk in there too much in your human nature, well then of course you're going to have some human experiences, emotions. You look at it from a human angle, and this is how people suffer. From our perspective in spirit, this is a time in humans' history where suffering is no longer a constant. It doesn't have to be. So anyone who's got involved in any form of self-development has developed the ability to walk into your life's room, turn the light on, and stand there and see. But see from your higher perspective. When you see from your higher perspective, then you're able to understand what you've put in that room. I say this: life is not a series of events that have happened to you or are happening to you, but more a series of events happening because of you, because of the way you think, the way you feel, the way that you resonate, mind, body, and spirit. What are you doing? You're creating your own vibration of life. You're drawing in source energy, and you're turning it into your experiences, your thoughts, your feelings, the people in your life, your responses. You don't have to have a big degree in metaphysics. It's not about that. It's about waking up every morning knowing that you have this grand chance of life. And when you pay attention to what you're thinking and what you're feeling and what you're doing, then you organize it. And I don't think that's a hard thing to do on a day-to-day level. Humanity, for too long, accumulated too much of the energy and vibrations of conflict. Through history, human nature has carried that. You are all that history because you've all lived those lives that were part of that. And so now you've reached a place in your own existence where the God in you has grown. And as the God in you grows, it challenges your human nature. Your higher nature is asking of your human nature, here's a new story. You must change that story. If you don't, well, then you'll just walk into life's room in that way. For so many decades, human nature has been able to get away with so much. And that is because for a lot of human nature, they have turned a blind eye to who they really are as souls. And now there are more beings, people on this planet, who no longer are turning a blind eye, but are waking up with their eyes open. And they see. They see the need to be more and to do more and to create more and to achieve more within themselves. And in doing so, they are changing their vibration. You are changing your vibration. You do not need to work yourself out. You do not need to sort out your lives. You do not need to have a grand and great understanding to try to move forward. Why do I say that? I say that because you are God. You are, right now, the beings with all the answers, all the power, all the aptitude and ability. And this is what humanity is waking up to now. They may use other words. They may not say it being God. They may call it source power or higher consciousness or universal energy. But whatever is the term that you feel most comfortable with, this is how it is now. This is the new constant. Humanity has just walked this tightrope of conflict in such a long, 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 long way that it has taken itself so often to a brink of disaster. Take the word disaster. If you look at the etymology of the word disaster, in Greek it is disastrata. In Latin it is disastratam. It simply means to be torn asunder from the stars. So when you move away from your higher consciousness, you trip up. And I'm sure no one here wants to trip up anymore. But in order to move forward, you need to stand still and you need to look at your story. You need to look at, if it's all happening because of me, well then what am I doing? It doesn't have to be what do I need to work through and process, etc. What am I doing with the way I think and the way I feel and the way I live? And when you focus on that, then I can assure you that your mind self and your body self and your spirit self, it will direct you to certain experiences which will be natural to you, easy for you, so that therefore you're able to take new steps into a higher way of being easier. Human nature seems to be very addicted to suffering. Or they think of it as something that, well, that's just part of life. I suppose it is if that's what you believe. So you are all, as individuals and as a collective, asking of yourselves, what do we choose to believe in now? And when you look at the roads that you're creating for yourselves as individuals in your own personal self-development, then you will be directed to that which is natural to you. So it is not to find just one thread that says, well, okay, well, this is what we all have to believe in now. It should be, well, Sadie Smith down the road, that's what she believes in. And John McGillicuddy, he believes in that. Whatever your belief is, if it's true to you, and you are true to yourself in the way that it serves you, then that is your truth. And what will that do for you as a vibration? It will give you an alignment because it makes you happy. Oh, this is what makes sense to me. It doesn't make sense to do something that does not make sense to you. It's not about what do we follow now. Humanity's done that for far too long. It's not even about who do we have to listen to or what's the best thing to believe. It's your choice. And this seems a very hard thing for human nature to understand, because it's easy to say, oh no, I'd rather give it over here. This whole thing of I've got to be absolutely responsible for everything was too much for people. I suppose if you look and realize that you are 100% responsible for everything, then you're going to look at your life and some of the things you thought and you've done and you've experienced that you didn't like. And as you humans say, oh, bagger. It's hard to stand still and know the self. But to take it even further, knowing self is one thing. To live what that self is. And to realize that it's not just the one self, but how many selves you represent. Right now, that which I speak to you, here you are, just one dimension of your possibilities. One dimension of your soul is listening to me right now. And you have multiple dimensions that are unlimited. So you have some of your soul that is in your body. But the majority of your soul is actually non-physical. You exist everywhere. And you access more aspects of self all the time, every day. Often that is where your ideas will come from. or a sense of peace or alignment or warnings, etc. So you really are looking after yourselves. Yourselves are looking after you. And obviously you will get guidance from other sources as well. But on a day-to-day level, so much of the guidance that you need comes from you. One thing I've noted in 37 years of channeling through Blair is how much human nature tends to rely more on what's out there or something more than what they are. Because they don't believe that they have the answers, that they know. Do you really believe that the God vibration would create you and not give you all the things that you need to know? It'd be like God energy saying, here's a book. And in this book is everything you need to know. And you'll not need to know anything else. And then the God energy goes. And then suddenly it realizes, oh damn, I forgot to teach them how to read. You don't need to be taught anything. Because anything that you are attracted to is stimulating in you the necessity. I'm remembering who I am. I'm remembering what I feel. Oh, where did that come from? Well, it comes from everywhere. Does it matter? And this is the thing I think also too. When you see yourself as source, there are no degrees of separation. So therefore, it always comes from you. Whoever the source is, whatever the source is, it's always you. So therefore, no degree of separation means that you are aligning to the ultimate power of collectivity. And you have all access to this. For your own survival. And I look at some of the souls in this room now, who I've seen in the last few years, did not want to live anymore. In order to be something, you have to know what it is to be nothing. But if you allow the emotional aspect of self to overwhelm you, life becomes so hard because the emotional state weighs your soul down. It's hard for the soul to shine through. It's not a wrong or a right thing to feel these things. For you are here on a planet which offers up the opportunity to do that very thing, to feel, to have emotions, to have expression, to ask questions. That's why you've all chosen to be alive on a planet which offers this all up. And in doing so, you are discovering, who am I? And that could just be for today. And for those who get to that point where they walk the edge, it's not that you got it wrong, but you just got so overwhelmed by what was. And as I like to say, when you look at who you've been in the past, thought in the past, done in the past, whether it be productive or counterproductive, well, that happened to someone you used to be. And you're not that individual anymore. It's impossible, because every day you wake up, you have life again. And you're brand new, all the time. Through many moments through the day, you're evolving in every way. Sometimes you are aware of this. Sometimes you may not be. One does not need to seek the awareness of these experiences. It's just a matter of, let's pay attention to who I am on the day. And so getting back to this time in human history, it's an exciting, adventurous opportunity for all beings. And this was always going to happen, because it's happened many, many, many times through the history of this planet, through the history of souls on this planet. It's happened to you all before. But now, humanity has rather turned a corner. And the corner is because there's a collectivity of an understanding of what it means to be gods together, to be creators together. The whole energy of diversion, divisiveness can't work anymore. And I'm not just meaning, let's all get together and sing Kumbaya. I'm talking about you as individuals and what you're made up of and how you pull yourselves in. Imagine it's like this. I'll use this as an analogy. I did this as a meditation once, some years ago. Imagine yourself right now. And you are at the front of the line of a very, very, very long line of people. And when you look behind you, you imagine that they just go off into history. And there are men and there are women and there are children. And these are all your lives. They're just following you around all the time. But you're the one who's in the front of the line because you're the one living in the present. And every so often, one of those beings from that line steps out of line and comes and walks with you. And that's how you allow yourself to be inspired or influenced by other experiences. Imagine one day you're walking and you turn around and there's nothing there. It's all gone, all these people. Where are they gone? How could they just disappear? Well, they haven't. Because you get to a point in your own evolution where it just all blends. So you just become all of that experience, all of that energy, all of that vibration. I don't think this is hard to understand. You could just think of it, look at the week that you've just had. It's the same thing. You've lived through the week. Imagine that all the different ways you've projected yourself through the week, it's just followed you around. You get to the end of the week and you think, oh, well, it's all come to the end now. So all of that just consolidated into one point of consciousness. And then when you begin a new week, you start another line. and it just goes on. So you're gathering information, experience, empowerment. Now, add the God part of you to that. That changes the dynamics of it. If you just do it from your human perspective, then you're just going to have human experiences. You're going to look back on the week and you're going to go, oh, I'm glad that one's over. Whereas if you look at it from the God perspective, it's like, wow, what a week. This is the wisdom I've taken. This is the alignment I've created. This is how I'm carrying it. How am I carrying it? If you have awareness is what happens when you really understand what you know. Because you've lived it. If you just have knowledge and do nothing with it, it's just knowledge. But if you take knowledge and you activate the power of it by living the experience, you turn it into awareness. And it's that awareness that opens you up to your higher consciousness. And when you open up to all those layers of vibrations that make you up, this is where you open up to us more. Because it's just there. You don't have to find it. It's always there. But what you do is you develop your relationship with yourself. And it's this which is very, very important to who you are right now in your life. Yes, you all have your own narratives. Humans have this concept of karma. To me, karma is just a belief system that was created many, many, many thousands and thousands of hundreds of years ago, when the beings of the time forgot they were God. And when you forgot your God, then you turn the lights off. And when you turn the lights off, you can't see. Not just that, but you start to create a density within your physiology, your mental state, your emotional state. And this is what happened to the beings all those times ago. So they were locked into the physical. And the only way that they were able to once again feel the relief of themselves as light was for their physical bodies to die, so they would be relieved and released. But then they found that they'd built up this emotional alignment and energy to this place. And that's how karma was created. So they had to start reincarnating back into a body to resolve that particular issue. Well, you can imagine the repercussions as human nature started to get more involved in conflicts and dense vibrations, etc. So they just created a collective vibration and energy which weighed everything down and everyone down. And then humanity started to move away from everything that was natural. So rather than live in harmony with their surroundings, they started to think of themselves as more superior rather than just themselves, just part of the natural process. So when you move away from what's natural, you're going to trip up and you're going to suffer, whether that's collectively or individually. So when you start turning the lights on again, what do? You just create a different belief system. So everybody in this room, you don't actually need to be involved in the belief of karma anymore, because you've all turned lights on in your own ways. And the moment you do that, oh, hang on a minute, I'm not locked into anything. I don't have to resolve something or work something through. I don't have to do anything like that. I just need to live. Someone says to me many times, Tabaash, what is my destiny? I always say, don't have a destiny, have a life. It's much easier. Destinies put pressure on people. It creates a whole lot of rules. You know, why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? All that stuff. Live, experience, explore. But if you do it from your higher perspective, you'll know. If you want to be caught up into having purposes and all uses, etc., that's okay. But when you really understand, you don't need those labels, then you can be more. And that's when you make the changes physically, emotionally, mentally quite easy, because, hey, you know, this is how it works. I don't need to work this out, figure this out. You know, I don't need to sort this relationship out or figure out if I'm in the right career, etc., etc. I'm a God. I created everything. I've got access to the power of life all the time, right now. What am I doing with it? And so when human nature creates this amnesia, then there's always sources that are there to help you remember. And over these last 50 years of human nature, so many of teachings have been presented to humanity carefully, because it has to be a process of evolution and realization gently. But like anything, you get to a point where collectively there becomes enough understanding where you're able to turn a really big corner. And when you turn that really big corner, that's often when human nature has created catalysts for growth and change. I find it fascinating when you look at human nature and its history. There's always been catalytic events that have occurred on this planet that have had to herald in the necessity of change. The sad thing about this is when you look through human nature, those catalysts have usually happened through conflict, wars. Humans' only way of seeming to evolve or change or learn is to find more ways of slaughtering each other or being overpowering of each other, etc. It's still happening. But there's more lights on now than ever before. And I will tell you this, it's a fact. There are more people on this planet now who are enlightened beings than there are who are not. And that's a good thing. Because it means you're not walking the tightrope. Okay, when you look around what's going on the planet, different places, the conflicts, the fears, etc. It's hard to not believe that, humanity is on the brink of disaster. But it's on the brink of change and growth, enlightening, energy. So you're all lightening up, mind and body and spirit. But when you stand in your own light, you must stand in the light that feels really comfortable for you. And that's why, as I said, there's no such thing as an ultimate belief system. Because that's just you fitting into something that, in the hope of it, that will guide you, that will direct you. Whereas if you take the steps that you believe, this is what works for me for the moment. I mean, think of it. Being God doesn't make you infallible to human experience, for goodness sake. You're going to trip up. You're going to feel miserable sometimes. You're going to feel, what am I doing in my life? Hey, I thought all this God stuff was supposed to make me feel great. Well, it does. But you're on a planet where you're evolving and learning in the ways that you are, experiencing life. So when you do trip up, you know that you've got access to a power that's there to support you all of the time. And when you use that constantly, well, then you won't trip up. You're not going to come up against stuff because it's just not going to happen. Because your energy is going to shift. Your vibrations are going to change. The law of attraction things humans have been involved in. Simply put, whatever you focus on becomes your life. So how do you want your life to be? Don't reach too far. Because it's right now with you. In your thoughts and your feelings and your ideas and your attitudes. You are unique gods in your bodies. Accessing all of life. And nothing is ever denied of you. Everything is there for you. Everything. And it's with you the moment you awaken. And all you have to do is know that. And then in your own way, you decide how to live that. And you will be directed to literature and stuff like this and things to listen to and watch, etc., etc. But that is yet another catalyst for your memory banks, waking you up. And that's why when you go to things, you go, oh, I know all this stuff. It's true, you do. But are you living it? Are you aware? So humanity as individuals, it needs to create a new plan for itself. If you take the components of life, simply they are mind, body, and spirit on this planet. What is simpler to have a mind, body, spirit formula on a day? It's very distracting. Blair had every intention yesterday of having a God day. Well, $2,000 later as he went on a shopping spree. But as he said to me, well, Tabaash, how was God doing it that way? When you live in awareness, it just makes you conscious of what you are. And then on that day, you begin to consider in your observations, all right, well, what makes the most sense to me just for today? Because that's where it comes down to, just for today. And in your own way, you got to feed that mind, feed that body, feed that spirit. There's this great power available to you all, so much more than ever before. I'm sure there are many here who will acknowledge that they feel a change of energy this year that is lighter than what has been previously. And that's true. And it's because you've all grown. You've changed your minds about who you are and what you think, what you feel, and what you do. And because of that, you've created something bigger and greater. And that's not just in this part of the world, that's everywhere. Even in the places where presently there's a lot of conflict. But don't forget, there are places on the planet that are working out their own energy, their own karmic vibration, their belief systems. And that's why, thinking about what I said before, there's always been conflict as a catalyst. But then gradually humanity begins to change all that. And so when you look at the coronavirus, as awful as it has been, it's the first time in human history that they've been able to create a catalyst without conflict, without a war. And that's saying something good. Yeah, but it's still a virus, Tabaash. Yeah, but it's not a world war. Humanity stopped all at the same time. How wonderful. And by stopping, it changed the vibration. It collectively altered everything in a moment. So when you started to deny yourself of your rules and your rituals and your day-to-day stuff that you were so accustomed to doing, when you were suddenly denied of your holidays and your gymnasiums, etc., etc., and you had to be at your home and be with yourself and be with your people and be with your lives and your gardens and be in your silences and your questions and your changes and your emotions. How wonderful. Because suddenly, all that was your life previously, which was really one rather big mass distraction, made you walk towards yourselves. And in the walking towards yourselves, you saw yourself. And some of what you saw you did not like to see. But that is a good thing too. Because it allowed you to look at what is my relationship with who I am, with my life, with everything, my mind, my body, my spirit. It made you pay attention to yourselves differently. So by denying yourself of what was, you created something better, more. And I know there are those who, I just wish things were the same and we could go back to how they used to be, da-da-da-da. Well, that's impossible. It's not going to happen. You cannot go back to how you wouldn't want to, would you? A lot of people would, because that's what they feel secure in. You got insecure so you could become more secure. And though, there's the topsy-turvy stuff that's still happening, but there's more security vibrationally now than ever before. And you can all access it. But the way to access is to be God. Because your energies have shifted. So you've self-developed into a new idea of what that means. And so to access this power, to access this greatness, this new routine, you have to use your soul self. You have to live in your awareness. Once you know, you can't unknow. And you will know more. Some of you here have been on your self-development road for years, decades. And those who've done it, you should be in a better place. Because you know your gods. Human laziness steps into this sometimes. Distractions step into this at times. That's okay. But at least you know. But for those who've been on their road for such a long time, now you have so much more access to so much more power. Many of you have heard of The shift into fifth dimensional consciousness, yes? I look at it like this. 3D, third dimensional frequency, is very human-based, very karmic-based, very emotionally based. When you move into 4D, which many have been doing for a long time, let's just turning some of the lights on and realizing, oh, hang on a minute, there's so much more. And now, as you step into fifth dimensional frequency, see, this is the frequency that gives you access to source, to God's power. And once you've stepped into that vibration, and you all have here, then there's no going back to 3D energy. Because you just cannot abide by the density of what that vibration is. So when you acknowledge from your higher nature to your human nature that that's what you've done, then you start directing your human nature in different ways. The way I speak of it, I have this conversation. I would say, oh, human nature, it's me, God speaking. I just need you to know I've changed everything. This is how I need you to think now, to feel now. This is how I need you to be in your life. Your leaders lead. You are higher in your nature more than you are human in your nature. So when you kick into 5D energy, then you are accessing the power of life in the most unlimited way. Therefore, you must inform your human nature. This is the situation. Be realistic and gentle on yourself in the process. So as you inform your humanness of its new narrative, don't load it with a whole lot of challenges and changes, unrealistic situations. Allow it to be nurtured, gently informed. Go for a gentle walk with your human nature and just talk to it. Don't expect anything of it. You as the soul, you are the one who's leading it. You are the one who's informing it. It has no power without you, the soul. And you know this. And yet you still allow the human nature to get the better of you at times. Again, that is not a bad thing. It is just a thing. So this power that's available now, because of the shift of consciousness, is a big organizing that's going on within you all. So on a cellular level, it's an interesting concept because each cell of your physical body is surrounded by an energy, a light, and that is source power. So every cell of your body, imagine it's like a ring of light just around every cell of your body. So as you activate more of source through your physiology, through meditations, self-development, whatever, you activate that ring of energy, and that penetrates into the cells of your physical, and it begins to change them. They vibrate differently. And so as more and more and more of your cells are activated in such a manner, it transforms your physiology. It makes you feel differently. All heat stuff aside, in your Melbourne summer, many of you have experienced just feeling warm, feeling hot. You know, feeling your own vibration, almost hearing yourself humming sometimes. So you are literally hearing your cells, feeling your cells being activated. So the God power is activating the physical power and therefore allowing the energy of awareness to move through you. And that energy of awareness changes you. It puts you also at times into a slightly altered state of consciousness. When you're in a slightly altered state, what are you able to do? Receive more. And so it's interesting about this, because I was thinking of 2023. It's a very receptive year. So you're all, I put the call out. And now you're all bringing more energy and more possibilities. So you've trained yourselves up quite well for this. So your preparation time is well done. So now it's literally, well, let's take action. Let's actually make this work for me. And again, easier to do that on a daily level. Today, what do I feel? Today, what can I activate? Today, what makes sense to me? Today, what am I choosing to make possible? The power of the now is very important at this particular point in human history, because the power of the now is how you harness source, energy. The power of the now is also how, on a physiological level, you're able to absorb and maintain the energy that is available to you. If you try to look for that which is over there, and you get there, and you've done no preparation, well, then you're not going to feel it. It's going to confuse you. It'll make you unsettled. If you allow yourself the power of the now, and allow oneself to assimilate physically, mentally, emotionally, etc., well, then when you get over there, well, you'll know. And how do you know? Because you knew what to do in the present. You will never know what's over there if you don't know what's here. But everyone ever seems to want to go over there before they know what's happening here. So always, 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 it's the power of the now. This is who I am now, today. This feeling, these thoughts, these ideas, these emotions. How have I organized it? How have I structured it? What am I doing with it? What am I getting in the way? When you think of the human nature and its mind in the way it creates doubts and distractions, etc. Again, that is just being on this planet. And it's not about, I got to get rid of that. It's no. It's like, no, I just organize that differently. I don't look at my doubts and my fears and my worries and think, you'll have to get rid of these and then I'll be fine. You allow them. It's just a natural part of the process. But, obviously, as you take charge, your higher nature will direct it. Or human nature. That doubt stuff that we used to do? Well, I'm just changing that now. So we have the positivity, or we have the clarity, or whatever words you want to use. You don't push it away like it's the enemy. Nothing is the enemy. All the adverse thoughts and actions and attitudes are not bad things. Like I said before, they're just a thing. You go and put an emotion onto it, then you turn that thing into something that will hurt you or otherwise. And so it's good for humanity at this point to think of what are the distractions, individually, collectively. Look at all the stuff that's happening in Europe and in Ukraine and Russia and other countries where there is so much adversity. Again, there are things that are being worked out there. But truly, at the end of the day, for every individual on this planet, it's really a matter of how you choose to respond. For it is your response that will tell you about yourself. And that's not just world affairs, that's your own individual experiences in life. With the people in your life. How do I respond? What is my response telling me? And what can I do about that? I think it's very, very important to be very careful about allowing yourself to be affected by collective fear. And humans are being bombarded with opportunities to do that all of the time. When you read in your papers or what the governments have to say or what your radios have to say or what your TV commercials have to say or programs or whatever. And you're being subliminally programmed into stuff which distracts you. And then you turn it into fear or worries or whatever it is. Having a good old-fashioned talking to yourself is really, really what it's all about at this particular point. in the most honest way that you can. Objectively, of course. Being able to look at self, yes, this is productive, this is counterproductive. Not, this is right and this is wrong. That's a whole different vibration. Here I am, this God in my body. This is my life. So far, this is what I have created. So far, I'm the one at the front of the line. And yet suddenly, I'm accessing everything about me. It's all there within myself. Now this makes it rather interesting. So if you got all of that information from, and I'm talking about billions of years of existence as a soul, and it's all within you right now. So not just the lives that you've had on earth, but all other incarnations, other places, dimensional frequencies, whatever. It's all there right now. I remember once in a meeting in the US, somebody says to me, "Hey, Tabaash, how many lives have we all had?" And my answer was this. I said, "Oh, you've only just had one life, ever. You've just done it in lots of bodies." It's true. So what are you doing every day of your life? And this is how we see it. You're just channeling yourselves. You just pull from the cornucopia of your own experiences, ideas, feelings, talents, aptitudes, whatever. And that's what you're doing. So when you look in your mirror and you see your body, that's just your body. And yet every day of your life, you're just channeling through information about yourself. Now that's exciting, because that means that you can start calling upon aspects of yourself. And I always use this as a bit of an example, because it's a good example. So Blair, his wife, passed away 2 years ago, and she had had Alzheimer's for 15 years. And he looked after her for 8 years, and then the rest of her life she was in a care home. At her funeral, his friend comes to him and he says, "How did you do that for 15 years of your life?" And he said, "I just went to the part of me that knew how to do it." And that's how it all works. All the time. You all have parts of you that just step in. And they guide you and assist you and comfort you and give you a kick or whatever the case is. But it's just there. And sometimes you're really, really aware of that. So, when you become fully aware and live your awareness, then you realize, oh, I could just call on any part of me. I'll just call on the part of me, that knows how to be healthier. I'll call on the part of me that knows how to, finish that business deal. I'll call on that part of me that knows how to encourage my relationship. I'll call on the part of me that knows how to be God more. That's what you do. You don't find it. You'll be looking a long, long, long time. You are it. That's why you've all got involved in self-development. That's why you have an interest, because you already know. And something's woken up. And now that you've woken up, you don't want to go to sleep again. And then as you look at the unlimitedness of yourself, it's not like walking into a room with everything sort of laid out and thinking, oh God, how am I going to organize all of this? Someone says to me, "Oh, Tabaash, where do I start?" And as I always say, somewhere. There's no such thing as a right place or whatever. You stand still. Power of the now. So if I stand in the power of the now, then what am I going to do? I'm going to observe. And this is time in human history now. Observing is good. Observe who you are. Observe what you're involved in your thinking, in your feelings, in your lives, with each other. Observe. Observation allows you to see and then look at your response to what you observe. This is going to tell you two things. It's going to tell you, yeah, I like this, or it's going to tell you what games you're playing with yourself. And it's still up to you what you do with it. So there's no such thing as going down a road that's wrong. It's impossible. That doesn't exist. That's a human perception. You go down a road, you go down a road. Whatever emotion you bring with that, that's your prerogative. There are many here who, allowed themselves to be caught up into fear stuff. And then looking back in retrospect, it's like, what did I do that for? All I did was learn how to be afraid. And I could have just moved forward. Trying to convince yourself or talk yourself into something, or wait for the right moment and all that stuff. Doesn't exist. What exists is the power of the now. And how you organize in that vibration and energy. So, when you observe who you are at this point, so remember, you're observing yourselves as individuals at this point. This is who I am. This is what I see. Here are my responses. So that obviously makes you more sensitive to your own power. And then as you become more sensitive, then what happens? You create an awareness that allows you to be aware even more of the environments that you yourself are involved in. Because everything is an environment. So you have, like this room here, this is an environment. Outside is an environment. But you have intellectual environment, you have emotional environment, you have relationship environments, work environments, everything's an environment. And each environment possesses its own unique vibration. And so you're walking around all of the time with all these different diverse vibrations. How exciting. You must be very wise when you think about how many environments you're all involved in every day. You don't even know it. And you're changing and chopping all of the time. And you get a sense of it, a feeling of it, you see. Like Paul was saying before. Oh, can you feel the vibe? Can you feel the energy? That's an environment. This is an environment you have all created. Just by being here, this presence, this frequency. The aim should be in your lives, and this will help greatly with how things are at this point, is to establish as many productive environments as you possibly can each day. In your thoughts, feelings, attitudes, whatever. And when you do this, then all those environments, quite naturally, collaborate. And that collaboration establishes a very unique frequency just for you. And what does that frequency do? It supports your life. So if you have lots of really productive environments, you're going to have a good life. But as you have all known too, when you have a mixed bag of environments, which most people do, then here we go again. I'm going to take the good with the bad. And therefore they wonder, why? Well, change your environments. From my observation, there's really only two ways of dealing with energy in regards to environments. You either get yourself out of that environment or find some way of removing it from your life because you just realize it's completely counterproductive. Or, if that's not feasible, then you step back, you get involved in the power of the now, and you look at how you can reorganize the energy of that environment by changing your thought processes or your emotions. So you find ways of reevaluating, reorganizing, realigning. I think sometimes human nature can be too premature in regards to getting themselves out before they stand still and consider their options. It's our fight and flight mentality of human nature. And that usually comes about because humans are in conflict within themselves. But what are they in conflict with? Conflict of ideas, patterns, systems, vibration. If you're in conflict with something, then something's out of sync with you. Because when you're in alignment, when you go all these productive environments, that doesn't happen. It just can't, it doesn't happen. Everything is a formula. And when you understand your own formulas, then you'll have harmony. Disharmony is when you don't understand your own formulas. So each day, again, getting back to what I said before, I don't think that's a hard thing to do on a daily level. It's not tough. It's your ideas. It's your conditionings. I think about the power of the now, and I think of this moment in human history about the importance of being very, very present very present. But also, when you go to God in you, you know how to manage things. And I'm going to give you a really good example of this. And I know she won't mind me sharing this. So Blair's got a very good friend who lives in America, very close to her. And a week before Christmas, he sees that she had run. And he thought, I'll call later. But we said to her, to him, no. You must call now. You must call now. So he rings video WhatsApp. And he sees straight away in her face something had happened. Her eldest son, 22, shot himself in the head and died. Blair just burst into tears because she was quite connected and close. And she was beside herself with great grief, as you could imagine. I told Blair to say to her some things that she needed to do and to have a meditation. So she did. And she went off and rang Blair the next day. She was full of joy. She was full of happiness. She says, I followed through what Tabaash said. And I went to heaven. I saw my son. I sat with him and he talked to me. He told me why. And he just explained everything. Not just about why it took him to that place, but he explained about what that life had represented. Not just for himself, but for her as well. And so when she comes back, she says, I couldn't feel grief. I couldn't feel unhappy. Because he's wonderful and he's beautiful. And I saw the beauty of his soul and I understood everything. Everything. That is what it means to be God. You don't need to suffer. So yes, things happen like these things. When Blair's wife died, he didn't feel grief. Even to the point where he was thinking, oh, am I suppressing something? And he had this meditation and he tried to squeeze some out, but he couldn't find any. And then he bursts out laughing and he says to himself, well, what do I have to feel sad about? She's gone home. I'll see her again one day. But she's relieved of the Alzheimer's and she's just this free soul. You have lives to live. Yeah, on this planet, grief is a part of human experience, but not forever. You have to know when to put everything down. And I'm not just talking about the grief of people who committed suicide or died of Alzheimer's or cancer or whatever. I'm talking about the grief of a bad relationship that people are out of or an unhappy situation in your life. There's always a point where, yeah, I've got to hold on to that. But then there's always a point where it's, I'm not going to let that go. I just got to put that down now. I don't want to allow the rest of my life to be defined by just one or a series of events that have been counterproductive. I can't be happy because of this, or I'll never be happy again because of that. Whatever you focus on becomes your life. After this young man died, it was the week of Christmas and Blair went up to Auckland to his father. And he kept seeing these young men who looked exactly like this guy. And it just kept happening. And then one time he was on the beach and there's this same thing. And then suddenly he got this young man's a voice in his mind saying, oh yeah, it's me. Just letting you know I'm okay. Just thanks for everything. It's all cool. And he just felt it. He just felt the vibration of it and energy. Psychics, mediums, channels, they're not the only people who can be receptive to this. You're all receptive to this. It's just how it works. But there's such a line that is drawn, a ritual that is created, an environment that's created that denies you all of knowing how to cope and knowing how to go to spirit, to see the signs, read the energies. One day, you will all leave these bodies, believe it or not. And you will go into spirit. And you will connect with those that you've loved and lost, etc., etc. And you will see and feel the bigger picture. But you got a lot of living to do before that happens. Don't mourn those for too long that have left you, because you end up mourning for your lives and putting yourself into a place where you haven't got the lights on. And then you have to go and find yourself again. There's always that which is there to support you in times of adversity. Always. For those who've gone home, well, that's just that state of consciousness. Someone says to me once, "Tabaash, please explain this place called heaven." I say, heaven's not a place. It's a state of consciousness. And there's lots of heavens. So you got the heaven you go to when you finally leave your bodies. You got the heaven of talking to me. You got the heaven of a nice day. You got the heaven of love. You got the heaven of a beautiful garden, a nice cup of coffee. You got the heaven of your little child coming up to you and just giving you a cuddle, or your little dog coming along and just looking at you with such devotion and love. You know, you got the heaven of opportunity, of choice. You all have the heaven of life. So you could say you're all living in heaven now. So if you see it from that perspective, you realize that, well, it's all about the now. It's not about, oh, where we're heading in life and what should we be doing and making all. It's about living heaven now. Be the gods that you are now. Approach everything, mind, body, spirit. You know, if you get so caught up into human nature, put to yourself, oh, what would the God in me do? And just see what comes out. It's not going to say to you, you know, go and light a candle for yourself somewhere or have a 5-hour meditation or whatever. You know, it won't give you those extremes. It might just say, chill. It's always going to be simple. You know, humans make things so complicated. You know, you're not going to find enlightenment in volumes and volumes and volumes and volumes of books that you read and things that you attend. You know, those things are stimulants. But you're always going to find it all of the time in you. And all those things are just directing you to you. Everything that you've all been involved in, even in your intellectual studies, etc., are always directing you to you. It's always making you aware of you. And then when you look at what you're aware of, then you go and turn it into an experience. So when you really turn all the lights on and you realize how much you've got available to you, well, then that's when you think, oh, wow, how awesome. You know, I've got all the doors open. You know, there's nothing denied of me. I've got all this freedom to create, to be more, to do more. And you can do it from all sorts of different angles because as a soul, you're everything. You know, you'll do it from the male part of you, from the female part of you, from the God part of you. You know, you'll just look at all the different angles of everything all of the time. So your lives are your stories. And you're these stories that you have created. You wrote them. And you're still writing them. So obviously, this is a time in humanity, collectively. We all have to look at the part you're playing. See it in this point. I like this. Imagine all the people on this planet right now. So billions. And you're all writing a book together. And each of you is a word. So each of you is a word. So when you get a sense of what your word is, well, then that automatically goes on into that book. And that word is made up of lots of words. And that word is made up of lots of emotions. and lots of feelings, lots of actions. And that's just you as an individual. So when people say, what part can I play? I can't do anything. Well, you're all great writers, aren't you? Mind and body and spirit. You know, sometimes it's quite good even to think to yourself every day, oh, you know, what is the word of me today? And just see what comes to you. And it'll be different every day. Because everything it's just evolving all of the time. And so when you bring in the essence of source into that story, well, then your words change. And then collectively, the book that is being written by humanity is going to give you not a happy ending, because there is no ending. It'll just give you a grand story that is just ongoing and ongoing and ongoing. You know, so this isn't just, oh, well, we come to the good part now, where everything just all pulls together, etc. There's no bad parts. It's just life. That was just that part of the story. Now, if you take that analogy and you use that in relationship just to yourselves as individuals, well, then you're a book. What are you writing? And sometimes you have to reread a lot of books just to go over my thoughts, my feelings, my ideas, my attitudes, the process of me in my life. Think of what I say. Your message to the world is simply your life. And when you finish your message, you go home. There it is. It's not a right thing, it's not a wrong thing. You might be a tiny baby who only lives for 3 weeks. I talk to many children who are dying because they have cancer. I remember one young man, and his parents brought him to me when he was such a baby, only 3 weeks old. And I looked at him, they wanted me to bless him. And I looked at him and I thought, you have a bit of a journey in front of you. I said nothing to the parents. At 11, he was diagnosed with leukemia. He eventually passed when he was 14 years old. And we did a lot of work with the family. Blair became a bit like his big brother. And one day, Blair said to him, how do you feel about dying? And he goes, I have no issue with that. I'm going home. I'm going to see my granddad. I'm going to see Tabaash. I'm going to fly through the universe like Superman. But then he thought, but it's weird. I'm never going to get my driver's license. I'm never going to finish my studies, know what career choices I could have made. I'm never going to go out and hang out with my mates and go to wild parties, etc. He sort of looks around and he goes, and the worst of all is, I'm going to die and I've never had sex. Blair laughed. But as he was driving home, he was thinking, whoa, here's somebody on the brink of manhood, and this is as good as it gets. This is where it stops. That's the end of that part of the story. Well, he's been in spirit now for over 20 years. When I talk to these children, I've never seen any child who's afraid of death, ever. It's like they just know. When I talk to humans, because I deal a lot with humans who are dying too, I see fear in some of them. But the fear only comes because of the story that they've created for themselves over the years. Whereas for children, they don't have such a big story. So they still have what's natural. And they are able to align and attune into that frequency. So they're so cool. Yeah, I'm just going home. That's cool. Whereas human beings, I've got so much more to do. Why has this happened to me? All that stuff. You suffer because of your story. You suffer because of your own ideas about yourself. No one has ever done anything to you. okay, yeah, I understand people's circumstances and situations, and that's hard to understand when you think of some of the abuse that humans have gone through. But that's still their story. But you can change your story. You don't have to define yourself through your suffering. You don't have to define your life if you've been involved in violent situations or any forms of abuse. You have your understanding, your experience, and you have to know when to, I'm going to put that down now. Because if I don't, then I will always be a victim. I will always, and I'll just keep having to come back into life after life after life until I decide not to be a victim, but just to be a God instead. And this is one of the things I feel also collectively within humanity. It is moving away from victim consciousness. And yet, like any situation that changes, it's almost like all the victimization of everything has to come to the surface first. So everything is just being pulled up. And as it gets pulled up, then this is how people write, okay, we have a bigger understanding. And you look at a lot with different countries and their approach to indigenous peoples, etc. And so, it's about how everybody pulls together. But to do that, it doesn't mean you have to suddenly learn their language or do their ritual. It's called respect for life on all levels. Even though you're all souls, I can see, sometimes you all walk past the person who's begging in the street, or you turn or you walk across the road or something of that nature. And that's fine. It reminds me funny of when Blair and Kay were walking back from dinner one night. And Kay was always a very witty person and very direct. Anyway, so this beggar was there and he was holding out his hat like this, you see. And Kay just walks by and stops and looks at him and goes, "Oh, I've already got lots of hats, thank you." And just moves on. And Blair was like, "Here, have some money." But look, it's not turning a blind eye, but it's just, what are you not wanting to see or face within yourself? Okay, nobody has to go out there and, save everybody. But it is important to look at, in your own way, how you can serve each other, mind and body and spirit. And for those who can do more, they will. And for those who can just do what they can, that's what you do. You don't have to all go out there and be saviors to everybody. You do what you can, how you can, and the way you can. Simple. And feel okay about that. And if that just means donating something every so often to the local hospice, fantastic. If that means you want to be a volunteer at the hospice, fantastic. If you want to be a dog walker, fantastic. Or if you just want to go through your day-to-day life, knowing your God, feeding your mind, feeding your body, feeding your spirit, that's making a difference. I feel this time in human history is such an advantage, opportunity for all of you to think about the role that you do play in that book of life that is being written. There's a sense of freedom here that can be experienced and expressed. There's a life that you are living that's giving you chance to be more and to do more and to create more. But you must do this on the way that you realize this is what works for me. Not to work it all out and then do it. That again is going to put pressure on you. Just make it a daily journey. Have those conversations with your mind, your body, your spirit. Tell it. Don't seek for it and look for it, etc. Go and tell it. Each day, just tell it. Here's the journey for today. This is what I can do. Don't put pressure on yourself. You do not need to put pressure on yourself. There's nothing that you need to work out. There's only life to live. That's all there is. It's just life to live. And think of it. You've done it so many thousands of times. So you're quite qualified. You go outside when this is finished and you will feel the heat of the sun on your body. You know, that's the same sun that you've been feeling through all your lifetimes. Rather interesting concept, is it not? When you look up at the night skies, oh, you know, same stars, same planets, you know. So you've got this familiarization within your energy, this alignment and this connection. You all have within you the opportunity to make a decision. I'm going to walk. Claire, how are you? How lovely to see you. What is your story? What is your word?
Love and peace.
Yep. Are you in love and peace with yourself? Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. How do you feel you'll carry your misery?
Letting it go.
Yep.
But it's still holding on to me.
Because
Fear.
of? You know, it's fear of how brilliant and amazing you are. You know, you're just this big light. That's the real you. But not everybody has to have a big voice. You know, sometimes it's just, hey, I'm just God doing it my way. And when you put things down, you realize I don't have to be influenced by what was. And so I'm just thinking about 2023 for you. To me, this is a year of be free. Like really, really free. And you don't need to work it out, sort it out, figure it out, anything like that. It's just a decision that you make. And just stay aligned, you know, with the instincts that you have, because they're quite strong. But, you know, you're a very powerful observer. And then you have to observe just carefully each day, yep, this is what works for me. But I just feel to say, don't get pushed into situations that you don't feel comfortable with, basically. But it is definitely the time to think, no, I'll put that down, basically, see. Give her applause too, please. Because this is such a chance to be God more at this time in human history. Give yourself that chance. And not by the working of it out, but just creating day to day your life through your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas, your attitudes. Yes, you all have histories. You all have many stories that you have experienced in your lives. And you will create more. You will create more stories. But imagine like today. You finished a chapter. And when you turn the page, you see nothing. There's just a blankness. So you have this chance to write at any given moment. But no, once you turn the page is turned. And you don't need to go back. Because if your soul needs you to know, it will let you know. I think of it from a point, every day, be clear. Every day, be empty. Don't be a storage unit. No human being is established to be a storage unit for anything. It's not how you were created. The natural state of life is to be free, is to be empty. I give this all to you and then I go. It's something I created many years ago. I think it's a good way to complete. Just repeat this. Many of you heard this before and said this. From the Lord God of my being, excuse me, I now choose to be totally liberated. Mind, body, and spirit. Of all that limits me. Of all I am attached to. That does not serve me. Of all I am addicted to. That does not profit me. I ask forgiveness of all the people I have hurt. In this life, in any life, in any way at all. I forgive all who have hurt me. In this life, in any life, in any way at all. I forgive myself for all the ways I've hurt myself. For the times I did not pay enough attention. In this life, in any way at all. And now I choose to be at peace. Always. So be it. Excellent. Use it. It's such an easy way. Well, that's that gone. Right, what am I now? Oh, I'm just God. Clear, empty. Thank you for coming. Thank you for allowing me to talk to you. It's been a joy. I love you. Right, I'm going to bring Blair back. So he'll be a bit spacey when he comes back, but he'll be fine. So don't bombard him with energies. So, okay. You want a hug? She wants a hug. Hello, dear Claire. I love you too. I love you. All right, I'll just put this thing back. Bye for now. Bye-bye. Hello. Thank you.
A round of applause. I wonder what do you do over on the other side there?
On the other side. I'll just do this.
Is it like meditation?
No. Hang on, just bear with me here.
I'll give him a sec to come back.
He bombards me with a question. I've been out of my body for 2 hours. I always go to a certain place, which it depends really. If I do private sessions, then it's a different place to when I do events like this. So what I've been doing today. So it's hard to describe. Okay, right. So I was hovering in this space, and it was a sort of blue energy, and I was gathering all these strands of light. And these strands of light were to do with just the energy of my year, actually. So I was just doing a bit of cosmic shopping, I think. Yeah, so that's what I was doing.
You come to Melbourne to do shopping.
Yeah, came to do Melbourne, literally. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, there are times where I can go and just hang out, and there's a place I go to in spirit, which is just like this lake. And there's a little jetty and you just hang out. If I go sort of over that direction, there's a place called the Temple of the Light, which you meet up with teachers and guides, etc. And then if I go down that way, it's a bit like a big Italianate garden. And that's where I often meet up with master teachers and guides, etc. And then there are times when you can get sent on missions, like at the moment, and this is happening quite a bit. So if you imagine as a soul, and you're linking in with all these other souls who are light workers, and we've created this big, basically, grid of energy around the whole planet. So we're just sort of all linked in, sort of like stars, like that. So that's happening a lot. So.
Beautiful, amazing.
Yeah. So
Well, who would want to see Blair again or Tabaash? Well, he's going to be in Sydney in just over a month on the 16th of February. And we're going to give one person a free ticket to the event. And I was sort of tuning in and getting a sense of who I felt was the right person. And I was touched by, I believe it is Nicole. And I want to give you a free ticket to the Sydney event. Make a nice weekend out of it. We'll get you.
My birthday.
How synchronistic is that? Give her a round of applause. Come on. And can I have a hug? Just have beautiful energy and make a nice weekend out of it. Have some time in Sydney. It's got a beautiful view of the harbour, and I think it'll be wonderful for you to get away. It's been a while, hasn't it? It means you've had a nice trip away. Great. Okay, Blair is also I'm going to need to put these down. I'll come nice and close. There we go. He's the author of 2 books. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them on Amazon, can't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Or you can get them from the publisher, which is Ozark Mountain Publishing, which is Dolores Cannon's publishing company. And she personally published you, didn't she?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the first one, which is called Don't Change the Channel, was actually quite interesting because when I started writing these books, Spirit always gives me the titles of the books. And so I was in Christchurch in New Zealand, and I was just starting the book, and I asked Spirit, give me a title. And straight away they threw Don't Change the Channel. And then the second one was just Who Catharted? And because I was thinking of catharsis, etc. And but yeah, I was thinking of all sorts of other titles, and Spirit was going, now that's really boring. Now we can come up with something. But I said, well, you guys just do it. So that's what they gave me, Who Catharted. So I'm presently working on a third one. So I haven't got a title yet.
Beautiful. You'll have to keep us posted on that. Well, thank you again. And I hope as many of you can come to Sydney, make a weekend out of it. Make a nice trip away, because every session is different. Everything is unique. It's never planned. It's tuned in. So, and I love that you give people personal messages. I think that's important to people, and communicating with people, and it's great. Why don't you thank him again?